What's up everyone, it's the Martial Commander back with another Star Wars video, and today we're going to be discussing the greatest clone trooper unit in the Galactic Republic. Even greater than the iconic 7th Sky Corps led by Obi-Wan Kenobi and Commander Cody, and the even more iconic 501st Legion led by Captain Rex and Anakin Skywalker. Which is saying a lot considering the 501st was known as one of the toughest, most efficient units in the Grand Army due to its general being the chosen one. But there was one unit greater than that of the 501st, more skilled, efficient, tough, deadly, and everything else. That unit being the 21st Nova Corps, also known as the Galactic Marines. Belonging to the 4th Sector Army, under the command of High Jedi General Ki-Adi-Mundi and Marshal Commander Bacara, designation CC-1138. These guys were the best of the best. There were many variations of clone troopers. The basic infantry trooper, clones trained to operate all sorts of vehicles, clones that were specialized in space, land, or sea combat, ARC troopers, ARF troopers, commandos, and so many other things. In every other legion, you'd get specific clones who specialize in specific tasks. As for the Galactic Marines, that was every single troop, from the newest in the batch to the most battle-hardened. Reason being, if a clone didn't meet Bacara's perfect standards, they were transferred out to a different unit, because if they weren't the best of the best, they weren't allowed to hang with the big dogs. And we saw just why they had such a great reputation in their many deployments. Megiddo, Newborn Alex, Renvar, Argonar, and of course, Boz Pity. Now that we got that out of the way, let's look at their Jedi General. Believe it or not, Ki-Adi-Mundi was probably the weakest link of the Corps as a whole, at least when it comes to their efficiency. Now, he's not a horrible Jedi, but he's not a good commander. Imagine if the 21st had a general like Anakin Skywalker working alongside Commander Bacara. They'd quite literally be unstoppable in every single way. But I won't sit here and diss on Mundi, because truth be told, even though he sucked, he wasn't useless, as I just said. He was actually one of the most formidable Jedi there were, as he was usually deemed the most legendary and highest ranked of the Council after Grandmaster Yoda and Mace Windu. Both even back up this claim in Star Wars Republic Issue 5, as they both admit Mundi is one of the most valuable Jedi around. Valuable he has been already. More valuable he yet will be. But words may not mean much to you viewers, so he also has the feats to back it up. Main thing being his Force Valor, which is the ability to enhance one's physical traits, such as strength, speed, durability, agility, stamina, and so much more. And yes, every Jedi was capable of using Force Valor, and most did, as we see some Jedi move at sublight to light speeds, or easily lift grown men with one arm, or easily battle creatures far stronger than them. But Mundi was considered one of the greatest at enhancing himself, and we see that through many feats. He's able to move his lightsaber at speeds so fast that it is unable to be seen even by Jedi, as we see in Cloak of Deception. He also moves so fast that he is a blur to Grievous. This is right after Grievous kicks him without holding back, causing him to get crushed by 2 steel pillars in the process. But that's not even his greatest durability feat in my opinion. Him surviving an LAAT crash, then fighting on Geonosis like nothing happened is. To add on to it, he then destroyed more droids than Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka. With his strength, he is able to one-shot grown men with kicks and punches while holding back. He also easily lifts these men, and they're kinda built like Dwayne Johnson on steroids, so that's gotta be a lot of weight. But let's move on from physicals. He's mastered many abilities, such as force healing, controlling wildlife, and he has a pretty impressive force sense, able to find his lightsaber buried in a desert, and sensing life forms that not even his ship's life readings can sense. Then of course, combat skill. He wasn't lacking here either. He's shown he's able to beat Ventress with ease, forcing her to go into the defensive as she begins killing clones, and he's also shown to be a threat to even his men, who decided to hold off on executing Order 66, waiting until he's most vulnerable. Where he really lacks is leadership. Ki-Adi-Mundi's butted heads with Commander Bacara a lot. They respected each other, but they were both very different in the way they handled things. Bacara was the leader, warrior, tactician, while Ki-Adi-Mundi had the power of the Force to get him through battles. Had Mundi worked better with his troops and actually cared for their lives, the Battle of Megiddo would have been a lot shorter and went a lot smoother, instead of lasting 2 years. But alas, he did not, making him inefficient in some ways, even with all of his skills. But that can still be forgiven, as it was made up for through the other leader of the 21st Nova Corps, Jedi General Rivianu, who definitely seemed like a better leader, actually caring for her clones, Jedi friends, and not being an absolute sociopath. Sadly, she didn't stick around long, as she perished on Megiddo while holding up a crashing Venator with the Force to let everyone else escape, including Commander Bacara and Ki-Adi-Mundi. Anyway, Mundi's poor leadership and Anu's early death doesn't knock their core off from being the best of the best though. As I said, they had cloned Marshal Commander CC-1138, otherwise known as Bacara, the greatest clone to ever step foot on the battlefield, and this showed in everything he and the 21st did, from their extensive training to their many achievements in battle. Now you may be wondering what made Bacara better than the other clones? Well, literally everything. On Kamino, he received all the training of the other clones, including special operations training, such as ARC Trooper training and Commando training, just like all other martial commanders, of course. Then after this, he was personally trained by Journeyman Protector Court Davin, which, if you didn't know, Journeyman Protectors were some of the best and most skilled warriors the Mandalorians had. They had to be the best after all. They were the lawmen of the Mandalorian planet Concord Dawn and other surrounding planets. Future Boba Fett, Jango Fett's father, and the man who trained Jango Fett, Jaster Maril, are all notable Journeyman Protectors. So that just goes to show how skilled they truly were. The best out there. Under Court Davin, he gained a lot of individuality as well. Most clones spoke Mandoa, while Bacara spoke in Concord Dawn dialect. He also saw himself as a lawman and a keeper of peace, holding himself to a far higher standard than his brethren. Then after his training with Court Davin, he went through the Alpha 17 program with all other martial commanders. He graduated the quickest, and most efficiently, even surpassing Alpha 17 and his expectations, showing he was the most skilled and efficient the Grand Army had at its disposal. During this time, he became best friends with CC-8826, Marshal Commander Neo. Together, they developed some of the best and most important strategies for the Republic, including the utilization of the newly invented BARC speeder bikes. If his work on Kamino isn't enough to prove it though, let's take a look at the fact that he was placed on Megiddo, which was considered the most difficult and one of the longest campaigns in the Clone Wars. But not only this, he won numerous battles on the planet, and by the time of Order 66, they were extremely close to completing the battle as a whole. He also served in the Battle of New Alex, where he and his men had weapon malfunctions and won the battle by tearing apart B-2 super battle droids and Mandalorian super commandos with their bare hands. Overall, as you can see, there's really no clone greater than Bacara. Even in the Republic Commando Order 66 novel, Delta Squad knows he's the top dog, and he's acknowledged multiple times. But that's only the leaders. Let's look at what makes the Corps. That being, the soldiers. The Galactic Marines were held to a high standard. They all were put through basic clone training, then after graduating they were trained personally by Commander Bacara. Failure to meet Bacara's standards led to the clone being transferred to another unit, which would be the 501st Legion, the 7th Sky Corps, or literally any other unit. Goes to show the best of other units were the worst of the Marines. Like Bacara, each trooper was expected to be an excellent marksman and an excellent fighter. From a range or up close, whether it be in space, water, land, or air, the Marines were undoubtedly the most versatile force in the Republic. The best of them were comparable to even the Gnolls and Alpha Arcs, while the worst of them were still around the same levels. Definitely above most of the clone special operatives, including Delta Squad, one of the best commando units out there, as we see in Republic Commando Order 66. Not only were they held to the highest standard and trained to be the best though, they also had balls of steel. Every Marine was willing to run into battle without a gun if they were ever called on. Taking a look at the Battle of New Alex once again, we see the Galactic Marines face off against B-2 super battle droids and Mandalorian protectors, not to be confused with Journeyman protectors that trained Commander Bacara. The Marines' prototype space trooper armor malfunctioned and left them with absolutely nothing to defend themselves. But that was no problem for them. Given the order by Commander Bacara, all of the Marines fought the Mandalorians and B-2s using nothing but their hands, beating them down and tearing them apart until there were none left standing and they had won the battle. Not only does that show skill, it shows bravery. They continued to fight on, even while taking heavy casualties, and they still somehow came out victorious. Excellent training, held to high standards, balls made of Beskar, plus so much more. On top of their basic ground troops, they had some of the best artillery too. We know some of the Marines were experts in BARC and AT-RT combat. As stated earlier, Bacara and Neo came up with all of their Republic tactics involving new vehicles. Others were trained in air combat, and we can assume they were probably the best pilots the Grand Army had to offer as well, or else they'd probably be phased out like the ground troops. But who knows, maybe Bacara wasn't as picky with pilots. I highly doubt it though. He probably didn't want to get blown to bits if he got placed into an LAATI with a mediocre pilot. Then of course, the big boys on the battlefield. The clones trained in heavy artillery. But unlike most units, they didn't only have ATTEs at their disposal. They pioneered utilizing UTATs on the battlefield, which were far tougher and quicker than the standard ATTE, as they were made for the worst environments. And if a battlefield was ever too dangerous to navigate, they had plenty of ATOTs to help transport them. Anyways, with all of that, I think I've made it pretty clear why the Galactic Marines were the top of the food chain when it came to the Grand Army. From their equipment, to their skill, to their leadership, there was truly no stopping these guys. The only thing that could have made them better is if Ki-Adi-Mundi was replaced by Anakin Skywalker. I could definitely see Bacara and Anakin being the true definition of unstoppable. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope I've been able to teach you something new. If you did enjoy, and if you did learn something new, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Vodayan.
Looks like we got ourselves a batch of shinies, Commander. It's shiny and new, just like you. I have to admit that without the clones, it would not have been a victory.